Hi, and thank you for watching Alicia's View. This week, or I should say this month, we're going to talk about the recession. And I know it's not something that is a good thing to talk about. It's a very depressing subject. But the thing that we're going to do tonight is talk about things that we can do in Mountain View that are free or cost next to nothing. So we're still going to try to have fun even though we're going through some financial difficulties. So there will be a couple of guests we're going to talk to tonight, but the first one with me right now is Patricia Appelquist, who is a community organizer and supporter, who is also someone who volunteers all over the place. So thank you so much for being here, Patricia.
Thank you for having me,
Thank
Alicia.
you. So tell me some more about your community involvement.
Well, one of the biggest things is that I'm part of the majority of people that are unemployed, but that hasn't stopped me from being active in our communities through organizations where I can volunteer with or participating in community events like the Light the Nights with different cancer organizations, but also with volunteer organizations like One Brick, or participating in free events in the local area with from the Shoreline Amphitheater to taking in some of those good movies over at the Shoreline Theaters.
Right. So we're going to talk all about that later on. Yeah. Now, the first thing that I want to share with you is I did a survey of some people that both live and work in Mountain View. And some of the results were kind of surprising. So that's why I have cue cards, guys, because there's a lot of information that we're going to talk about and share tonight. And so I want to get your feedback on some of the questions that were asked, and also as we talk about some of the other things that we do, maybe your experiences with those as well. So one of the questions I did ask was about how in the past 6 months, how have people's spending habits changed? And 45% of people said that they prepare their food at home more often. And for me, I can't say that. I hate cooking. I know. I just don't do it.
Why cook?
So yeah, there's so many places you can just drive in and stop. And I think, especially in Mountain View, because it's a city of restaurants. Especially, you go down Castro, you can go a month without eating at the same place twice. But I've noticed that I won't order the same thing that I did before. I might be a little bit more frugal, but necessarily cooking more at home, not so much. How about you?
Well, the biggest thing that I find a benefit of Mountain View is that there's great happy hours. Yeah. And you can find some great deals pretty much throughout the whole day, from coffee at your favorite coffee shop to happy hour at your favorite restaurants for like Cascal and Amici's.
But then do you want your dinner to be hot wings and jalapeno poppers?
Actually, the small plates are really not hot wings and hot poppers. They're more like, little tapas of bruschetta and cheese, and if you're having a glass of wine, you get a nice side plate. It is a full meal sometimes of cheese and eating the European way almost.
And how much are we talking there on
I'd
average?
say probably $10.
$10.
$10.
And that's like, but you have to do like the senior dinner thing where you show up at like 4:30.
No. There's actually 4 to 6 p.m. and then also 5 to 7 p.m. And there's some really great happy hours you can find. I mean, even recently, I think it was U-Week that did an inauguration event. Yeah. 7 o'clock in the morning, $10, and you got to not only watch history being made, but have a really satisfying event.
And I was there for that, and there's a really funny story I'm going to tell about it. They had so many people show up, so many people. So I'm sitting there, I'm in a booth, there's all these people around me, we're crowding around at tables, and they ran out of the hash browns.
Oh, no.
So I'm thinking, no big deal. I didn't eat that anyway. And so a friend comes back, and she comes back with bacon, eggs, and French fries.
Oh, that's good.
Because it's still a fried potato.
Yes, it is. It is.
But they improvised, and no one cared because they got to see history being witnessed. That's
so
there you go. Yeah. So let me go to another question. So when I talked about coffee houses, it asked about what was your behavior? Has it changed in the past 6 months? I am a total Starbucks freak. So, I still show up every day. Probably won't get the same thing or the same size, but I don't think for me it's changed that much. 36.8% of the people we surveyed said that they go less often now.
Well, maybe they don't know about the great deals with the Starbucks card. And also, instead of getting your $4.50 mocha, you can get a $2.65 drip coffee. And even then, being unemployed, we found a great opportunity to volunteer, and we got a free cup of coffee for that. And there's also other coffee shops, your local coffee shops, that are doing special deals as well.
That's what I say. This could be an argument too to go, okay, well maybe let's not be so name brand and go visit the mom and pop shops.
Your local coffee shops,
yeah, absolutely. Third question. Again, in the past 6 months, how many people in your immediate family or your immediate circle of friends have been laid off? 34.2% said none, believe it or not.
Wow.
And I said, okay. But the next highest number is 1 to 2 people, said that 27% laid off. But 10% said they knew at least 8 people in the past 6 months that's been laid off.
Aside from myself, I know of at least 100 people today that are not working, where a year ago I probably knew 25. And what is interesting is that of those 100 people is that they are really looking for a specific job, or they're going into retraining. So they're staying on unemployment or staying unemployed for a considerable amount of time. In fact, extending their benefits was one of the few things that we can actually credit George W. Bush with because they needed it. They were running out of benefits, and they didn't have the funds to continue retraining or to find another place to live, because a lot of them also lost their homes.
That's true. So thankfully, at least in Mountain View, there hasn't been a lot of foreclosure, a lot of people abandoning their homes, so I'm very happy about that.
Yeah.
Now, the last question that we asked was, how much of your income outside of your rent do you spend in Mountain View? And again, we're talking people who either live, work, or do both here in Mountain View. 33% said that they spend up to 20% of their income.
Yeah.
And I was actually one of the people that said, I probably spend closer to 60%. Because again, there's so much to do, and you know, so many people from Palo Alto or other cities come here to shop. Like I've been on Stanford's campus, you know, and their express shopping, you know, marguerite service comes straight to San Antonio Shopping Center, because that's where they can get the most bang for their buck.
And also there's a farmer's market.
Right.
And the great festivals that are always on Castro Street. I always look forward to Oktoberfest.
Yes. So Oktoberfest.
Yeah, there's Oktoberfest. It's right behind.
Okay, you know what? You're absolutely right. I always get stuck on the summer ones, but no, you're absolutely right. Art and wine, and
art
then
and
after
wine
that,
and art
just
and
kind
so
of fades itself out.
Yeah.
But I understand that.
Yeah.
So, on that note, thinking about how much money people spend here in the city, we did a little research, and we said, okay, let's try to find some things that people can do in Mountain View where they can either spend no money or spend very little money. And we tried to stretch it out a little bit, because obviously you can go and get a cup of gelato. That's going to be under 20 bucks, obviously. But things that are like entertainment, like things that you can do that will take, you know, a significant amount of time. Now, me personally, I like going to the city and going to the theater, or driving down the coast and going somewhere. So it's not so much of, I don't want to spend the money, so I want to stay somewhere local and do something cheap. But it's, if I'm being spontaneous, if there's something like, hey, let's just go do something, that, you know, it stopped raining, what are we going to do? So I actually had some people submit some ideas on what to do. Some of these I need a little buy-in on, because I'm just not a natural golfer. It's not going to happen. So I'm not going to the driving range, but we'll talk about that. So the one that I was excited about, true story. So a couple of days ago, I went to the movie theater on Shoreline. And I said, okay, you know, I wanted to see this movie, and I'm not working, so I went to the first show. And the first show, I was expecting, you know, matinees usually like $8, $8.25, something like that. $6.
Yeah.
I actually went back and said, are you sure? You know, we take credit cards
was I getting
now.
the senior discount?
What's going on? They're like, no. So they have what they call now the early matinee. So the early matinee, you get to go for $6. I'm like, so I can take a 10. I can actually afford the, you know, the junior size popcorn that costs as much as a dinner somewhere.
Yeah.
And, you know, still keep it under $10 and see a first run movie. I'm very happy about that.
Yeah.
So that was my personal discovery.
Right.
So going from that, someone told me about going to the Shoreline Aquatics. And so that person and 3 other people, so a party of 4, for an hour, can go out on the lake in one of those paddle boats. $17.
So wait, how many people can go on the paddle boat?
4.
4 people? Oh, that's awesome.
4 people can go on the paddle boat. If they get a rowboat for the same amount, they take 2 to 3 people.
What if you're not coordinated for the paddle boat?
Then there's a canoe.
Oh, that's cool.
And the canoe is, you know, that's for 4 people as well, depending on what your size is.
Okay.
Or if you're just a loner, you want to go windsurfing or get on a kayak,
Ooh.
same amount, 1 hour.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Get the exercise in that you need and get the fresh air.
Exactly.
And be healthy. And also, if you don't have 4 people, you can always do a meetup with meetup.com and meet at Shoreline Park for a great walk around the park itself.
And there's a lot of stuff you actually can do at Shoreline. And actually in our next segment, there are some things that came up that I'm anxious to share with the audience.
Great.
So there's ideas about the happy hours. We talked about that a little bit. For couples, if they want to do something pseudo romantic, go downtown, get one of the magazines from the from the bookstore, go upstairs to the coffee house and sip on a mocha and point to pictures. I don't know. They want to do that.
But you can also volunteer with the many nonprofits in the area as well. And that would be a very loving event as well.
And then there's free things you can do. Like one thing I am ashamed to say I have not done yet. Computer museum.
Oh my gosh.
I've gone for social events where people have thrown parties and stuff, and it's beautiful, but just to go, I haven't gone. And I know one person that's watching right now who's going to come knock on my apartment door and chastise me because she's been trying to get me there for months. So yeah. I'm going to change and do that. So you got the Computer History Museum. If you already have a kite, you can go to Shoreline and fly it. And that's a beautiful place to be if you can find parking. And again, about the whole golfing thing. So if you like to go to the driving range, just to go swing and get some of that aggression and anger out because of you lost your job or what have you, or you're just frustrated because your partner lost their job. Yeah. You can go and get a large bag of these golf balls, like 60, 70 balls in a bag. $7.
Ooh, I can afford that.
So I think I'm going to try that.
What about the insurance for the cars that are on the other side of the golf course?
Well, I think they have to be parked in a different area.
Okay,
so
good. Yeah.
But thank you so much for shooting the breeze with me. And when we come back, we're going to talk to one of the people from the Chamber of Commerce. There's a lot of good things going on there this year. They have a new CEO, a lot of new programs happening, and they're actually going to tell us too some of the free and inexpensive things that are going on there as well. So we'll be right back.
Thank you.
And we're back. So now I have with me Dave Stevens, who is the Program and Events Manager, or maybe it's the other way around, at the Mountain View Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I know some people are going to be watching this again and going, what's going on with Alicia in the Chamber? Because first I had Oscar on the show.
But he wasn't hired yet.
That's true.
So it doesn't count.
So I had an insider flow with him coming in.
Yes.
And so now I have you here.
See, it's like the Daily Show, how they had Barack on before he was the president. Now they can say they had the president on.
Okay.
See,
so
same thing.
Can say
You're
that.
ahead of the curve.
Okay. So talk about some of the things that's happening over at the Chamber. I know there's been some new things going on. Kind of elaborate.
There's been a lot of changes there, and it's a very exciting time to be there. Myself being one of the changes, I started in October. Oscar came on January 5th. We are in the process of looking for a new membership development manager. So out of the 5 full-time staff members, 3 of them are going to be less than 3 months.
Wow.
It's very exciting. When people ask me what it's like to work there, I say it's a lot like being a part of DC because we have all this information because the Chamber's been around since 1922. Yeah. And it's all tucked away nice and neatly in books and binders. And it's kind of up to us now if we want to pull them off the shelf and look at how it has been done, or if we want to figure out how we want to do it moving forward. So with Oscar being from a high-tech background and working and establishing and creating a nonprofit, myself not ever working for a chamber before, but being a member and an ambassador, it's a very, very exciting time to be there.
Okay. So what kind of events do you guys have going on right now?
Well, coming up this month, we have 3 events that I know off the top of my head. Okay. First, we have our Women in Business Mixer, which is actually going to be focused on social networking and how to represent yourself on the Web 2.0, creating your Web 2.0 presence. If you're on LinkedIn or if you're on Facebook or MySpace or what different social networking sites there are and how to use them to generate more business for yourself. The very next day, we have our annual or our monthly business mixer.
Yeah.
And then coming up at the end of the month, we have my personal favorite program, which is YIPI, which stands for Young, Innovative, Professional Entrepreneurs, etc.
Okay.
And that is our second mixer of the year, and we're just getting started with that program.
And I was at the first one.
You were.
And I will put it on record, I owe $5 because when you go, and that's one of the things a person can do, you know, that's, you know, up and coming in the community, they want to be a part of YIPI, and we'll talk a bit more about that in a little bit, is that they can come to these mixers, meet other people in business community, and you just pay $5 and you get some awesome food at an awesome location. I think we were at the Hotel Cabana.
Correct.
At the first one. So, I mean, it was a great location. I met a lot of great people and went home and found, you know, 5 Facebook friend requests coming from that event. So there's your social networking aspect as well.
And we have groups on both Facebook and LinkedIn. We actually have an official group on LinkedIn, one of the very few. If you pull up YIPI, if you do a search, there's a little box that shows up next to it that says official. That's our little claim to fame. So you're right. There is a small fee to attend. We are trying to build the capital to buy signage and things of that nature. We have these very gracious hosts that bring us in. February's is going to be at First and Main Sports Lounge in Los Altos, which actually one of our former employees helped start the restaurant. So she welcomed us with open arms and said, absolutely, I want to host this next generation of movers and shakers.
So what's the goal of YIPI though?
The goal of YIPI is really to help connect and engage the next generation of young professionals. The millennials, to bring it back to the inauguration that we recently had, I heard a commentator say the millennial generation is going to be remembered by this event the same way the baby boomers were remembered by Woodstock. They were saying that what happened with that election was the culminating moment for the millennials. Clearly, we're a powerful group of upcoming young professionals that are really eager to pursue our dreams, to make things happen, and to get there, quite honestly, as quickly as possible, because we are a generation of instant gratification. Most of us grew up with computers the whole time. 4th grade, we were playing on computers. It's just part of our life. We expect things to happen quickly. We talk about things to a certain extent, but if there aren't actions that follow through, we're not interested. So this is a way of connecting those baby boomers and Gen Xers that are currently engaged with the chamber and connecting them with these new up-and-coming millennial generation.
No, that's good to know, because when I talk to people about, if I tell them, oh, I went to a chamber mixer, I went to a chamber event, they're like, are you a business owner? I'm like, no. Because I think that's what people associate that with, that you have to be like this older individual that's been around for a while. And I'm like, no, it's for, anyone that's kind of connected in the community in some form, shape, or fashion.
If it wasn't for networking, when I got laid off back in October, I wouldn't have found and been working in a new job within 8 business days. I got laid off October.
I'm upset now because I'm 3 months out.
Well, we need to talk more. I got laid off on October 1st, and my first day was October 13th. And if you do the math, it's remarkable, but it was because of the network of people I had built. I believe in networking. I think it's very important. It doesn't keep you in the door, but it's what's going to open it for you. And by building that network, getting to know other young professionals, that's what's going to help you build those connections that are going to help advance you through your career to get you to wherever you want to be.
Do you feel like social networking in and of itself has started to mature? Because I think when we said social networking 4 or 5 years ago, people were thinking MySpace, and they set up a page and I'm socially networking with all these other people and we're sharing, music videos and pictures that they probably regret posting on the internet now.
Many people have lost their jobs from MySpace pictures.
Exactly.
I think people have just really started to realize, it seems like all of my friends have started to drop their MySpace and move to Facebook. And it's not that I'm promoting one or the other. I remember signing up for a Friendster account. Do you remember Friendster?
I remember Friendster.
They're still around. They actually just moved to Mountain View. They're on the block next to us now. They're still around.
Are they members of the chamber?
Not yet. They should be, though.
Work on it.
But it seems like people MySpace was a novel concept. It was a lot of fun. You could do a lot of crazy things and really, let's say, express yourself. But people got over it. And people are now more interested in having a solid connection with people as opposed to glitter-filled pages with a bunch of music videos on it.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that's one of the reasons that brands like LinkedIn have done so incredibly well, and Facebook as well, because it's straightforward, it's to the point, you make those connections, and you actually have a substantial, as much of an oxymoron as this sounds like, a substantial online relationship with those other people that you're involved with.
Right, because it's not just strictly online anymore, and I think that was the other part of the maturing process is I would know these people online, but if I ever, saw them on the street, I have no idea who they were.
Exactly.
And now these are people who are not just in college or, just finding a place to hang out. They're in the business community. They can help me to, further my career, further my connections, so on and so forth.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that's basically the other, what Yippee is promoting, is that you aren't going to be able to meet someone just cruising around on Facebook or LinkedIn and say, hey, here's a VP of this company. I'm just going to go ahead and send him an invitation, because they're going to ignore it. You come to a Yeti Mixer, you meet someone who works at Google who happens to be friends or go mountain biking with the VP of someone else, Google who is a member.
Yeah.
Then you can say, you know what, I'm looking to possibly make a move over there. Can you introduce me? Yeah, absolutely. Send me a friend request or add me to your network on LinkedIn, and I'll take care of the introduction. And so through creating these person-to-person relationships, you're able to actually have an online networking presence that means something.
No, that's good. And the one thing one of the few things that I love about the chamber here is that it isn't.
Did you say the few? Oh.
One of the few things I learned, and I'm learning more about the chamber, but one of the things that has really taken a hold of me is the fact that the chamber in and of itself isn't kind of like this boxed in organization. Because I've been to other cities and I've visited their chambers, and I could walk in sometimes and feel out of place because, again, I don't look a certain way, or I don't, present myself a certain way. I'm not this business owner, and I don't have this net worth, so there you go. But one of your coworkers, Heidi, is working on a project called I Love Mountain View, and so we're going to kind of wrap up with this, is that it's taking on more of a citywide effect. And so one of the things she's doing is all these adventures that people can go on in Mountain View. And so, again, talking about Recession, talking about doing things in the community that doesn't cost a lot of money or anything like that. I would not have thought to go to the Chamber of Commerce to find out how I can do things, on the cheap. Because, commerce, cheap, they just don't usually go together. So I wanted to share with the audience a couple of things that's being worked on. And I know that once this aspect of your website is up and running, that we'll talk about it more. And there was a couple of things on there that, as someone who's lived in Mountain View for roughly 13 years, you start to think that you know where everything is. You know the little nooks and crannies. And so one thing I did not know, and I don't know if you knew this, was that there are parts of the Berlin Wall in Mountain View.
I did know that.
How did you know that?
I don't know where they are. I don't know where they're kept. But it was Heidi. She mentioned that. And I said, because she's part of the art development committee of Mountain View. And I thought, really?
Yeah.
And she said, yeah, they are. And then she told me, I'm looking forward to this website, because for someone like me who doesn't necessarily remember it at the moment, I can then go on there and say, hey, I remember hearing about that. I'll look it up and find it.
Yeah, so I'm reading this thing and I'm going, so she plans like this whole, German experience in Mountain View for, relatively cheap price. So you start out at the location of where the Berlin, the pieces of the wall is. And then you go, and it's off of San Antonio. You have to go to my website to get the information. And then you go down the street to Dittmer's, to the sausage place, and you get, your German sausage, and, you have that going on. And then you can go across the street over to Esther's Bakery, which is a German bakery.
There you go.
You feel like you're in Germany, you haven't left the
city. You got to have
limits.
some beer, because that's part of the German experience. This is part of the German way.
Well, you're going to have to show me.
Absolutely. The initiative and the thought behind the I Love Mountain View website was really it wasn't just about bringing tourist dollars in or anything of that nature, even though that is a plus, but it is really designed for locals as well.
Right.
The idea is to help remind people of what a great community we live in, and that if you live here, there's plenty to do. Spend your money locally, help reinvest in your community, because when you buy something, you live in Mountain View.
Right.
When you buy something in Mountain View, those sales tax dollars go back to the city. And then those monies are then pumped back into the schools where your children go and things of that nature. So it's really about creating a cycle that just really lifts the community as a whole.
No, absolutely. We were talking about in the other segment where, you know, we had members of the Mountain View community do this survey. And the last question was, how much of your income outside of, you know, your rent do you spend in Mountain View? And I said, I'm one of those people that said at least 60%, because everything is just here.
Well, I'm there with you because I'm here all the time. Because I can't believe they let me loose tonight.
Well, thank you so much for being let loose and come here today. I promise not to have another chamber person on for at least a month, so I don't want to be accused of anything. But thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys learned a lot. Please make sure to visit alicia-mv.com to learn more about this show and the things that we talked about tonight. And I hope you all have a pleasant evening. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
No, no problem. It's cool.
Why am I changing? Why do people get complacent with the things they're told? Well, disasters, they come and go. I'd give anything just to be back home.